Hello, this is Jennifer Fox with Fox Property Management, and let's see, it's July or June 29th, 2026, and I'm sitting here with Brad with Profit Coach, and we're excited to talk about efficient property management today. And I did a podcast or a quick video on social media not long ago that was just talking about why it might be important for you to hire property management. So property management is something you can do on your own, but there's a lot of reasons why it makes sense to hire this service. And what I thought would be helpful today, and why we brought Brad here, is that Brad and Profit Coach are the financial support behind Fox Property Management with trust accounting, operational accounting, corporate accounting, and helping us to run a really well-run, efficiently run company. And so Brad, with all of his experience and years of both being a property manager and coming into this role of CEO of Profit Coach over the past few years, just has a lot of information to share. And so we're just going to go through this conversation, and we're hoping that this really is interesting to those of you who own property, already have us managing the property, and it's just kind of more information about what's behind everything we do and the value of hiring a property management company that's well run. And then for those of you who might be in property management that are seeing this, I'm hoping that the message that Brad shares is helpful for you as well. So we're just going to kind of jump in, and I think we could maybe start, Brad, with you just introducing yourself.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Brad Johnson. I'm from Wilmington, North Carolina, but as of last week, I'm a fellow Coloradan.
Nice.
We actually just moved to the area, which is why we can do this in person. Have had my eyes on this state and the Denver area for many years, but got the opportunity and we jumped at it. So drove across the country and just unloaded and happy to be here. So that's pretty cool. About me, I have been in property management for almost a decade. I've kind of done it all. I've been an HOA manager, so I've gotten the slings and arrows from the board of directors and the general meetings every year. Did that for a couple years. I've been a commercial property manager, so I've managed retail, office, industrial, over 500,000 square feet of different commercial property management entities. Did that for a few years, and then before Profit Coach, I ran a pretty large, pretty equivalent to Fox, a pretty large property management company there in Wilmington, North Carolina. Helped to optimize that, got to be on the ground and get to really see and experiment with what works, what doesn't work. How do you create a great property management company? How do you create great outcomes for your owners, happy tenants, all of that. We sold that business in 2023. And then in 2024, I became a partner and the CEO of Profit Coach, which has been around since 2018. Started as an accounting company, morphed into a data and financial analytics company, then went into financial performance coaching. Just kind of the quick background on that is most property management companies don't have a good grasp on their numbers. Property managers are good at managing properties. They're often not great at things like accounting. And they're often not great naturally at some of the understanding how some of the business aspects work to create really well-run, profitable, solid businesses. And we got really good at really granular accounting that's very accurate, both on the corporate side for the PM company so that the PM company knows its numbers. And of course, like you mentioned, on the trust side, being able to make sure that all the money is where it's supposed to be. The owner's money, the tenant security deposit, everything's separate, right? We all know where all the money is at all times. That's a big deal. And actually one of the biggest reasons why you should hire a property manager is trust accounting is no joke. And dealing with other people's money and being held accountable for it by your state, also not a joke. So that's what Profit Coach does. We help property management companies build great businesses by understanding their numbers, by staying in compliance, and by optimizing for all of the things in the business, not just financial, but the people and the process and the technology to build a great business and create great outcomes for property owners.
Yeah, it's great. Yes, and the compliance requirements in the state of, anywhere.
Yeah, everywhere.
Everywhere with trust accounting are really, really important. And as a company, we take compliance very seriously, from trust accounting to the way that we vet tenants, to the way that we send out leases, to the way that we communicate with tenants. It's like we have a director of compliance in our company that just handles that because
good.
it's so important. And so Profit Coach is a very big part of that compliance that we bring you when you hire us to manage your property. So, well, maybe what we could start with is what actually drives profitability for both the landlord and also the property management company, and how do those two work together to actually benefit
Yeah,
the landlord?
that's a fantastic question. So I'll start with property management companies first. What drives profitability for a property management company? What drives good business outcomes? There's a few different things. The biggest one, and this is actually very related to the second part as well. The biggest one is, how do you utilize your labor? So who's on your team? What are they doing? How are they doing it? And what are they using to do it? Right? So first of all, with any small business or medium or large, basically any business other than maybe a software company, your largest expense, your largest line item is going to be people. We call that direct labor, right? You've got management labor, operations director, CEO, maybe marketing manager, things like that. But most of the labor in your company is direct labor. So how you use that direct labor, how you steward those people and their time is ultimately what's going to make the difference between a profitable company and an unprofitable company, a well-run company and a not well-run company. And what's crazy is the same thing applies for driving great results and profitable NOI positive results for property owners is, well, how is the labor being utilized at the PM company? Are people doing work in a streamlined way? Are they being efficient? Are they using the latest technology and tools to do their work? Are they using paper checklists? Are they using smart routing to go around to different properties? Because what property owners may not appreciate that they should know, that you all should know, is how many glass balls the property manager has to juggle all day long.
Yeah.
Right? Even in a small portfolio, there's just a lot going on. There's money moving hands, there's maintenance requests coming and going, there's applications, there's leasing. If your team members at the property management company don't have a really good grasp on optimal process, if they're not automating the sort of manual tasks that can be automated, they're wasting a lot of time and they're probably dropping a lot of glass balls. And that impacts you, the property owner, because then your tenant is not getting a response to a maintenance request right away.
Right.
They're not getting, here's a big one that matters a lot for compliance. The property manager, if they are running a disorganized kind of chaotic process, they're not sticking to the application requirements. And so they're making exceptions on credit scores and all of these things and creating a lot of risk for the property owner. But a well-run PM business that has well-ordered labor and really great processes doesn't really have to worry about that because they have the tools and the systems and the people to keep it all together. So if you're a property owner and you have one property and everything goes perfectly, you may be able to sustain that for a season, right? But if your life gets busier, and I say this all the time, property management is not for every property owner, professional property management, but it is for most. Because most people, and I know I'm going off on a tangent.
You can
you rein me in. You rein me in whenever you want.
Everybody likes a tangent.
Okay, but for most people, their portfolio, whether it's 1 unit, 5 units, 10 units, it's not their primary focus. They have their own business to run, or they have their own job, or they have family, they have children, they have all of these different things going on in their life, and so the property is kind of the last priority,
right,
or it's the thing that they need to make sure they get to in order to make the tenant happy enough to stay. For you, it's all you think about. And for your property managers, for your portfolio managers, your asset managers, they wake up and they think about their portfolio. They think about you, the property owner. They think about the tenant, and they're wondering, how can I make sure that I get everybody that's under my care what they need today to do well? And they go to bed thinking about open work orders.
That's right.
I know this.
Yeah.
You go to bed thinking about open work orders. How can I get the plumber there faster to get this fixed?
Right.
The best thing to me, other than NOI, which is a big deal, the best thing a property manager provides for the property owner is peace of mind.
Yeah.
When you have a great property management partner, you don't have to go to bed worried about the plumber. You know that you have a trusted partner who is going to bed worrying about the plumber. And so you can live your life and they can be stressed out about the details and get it done. But if they're a great company, they have a process, they have a system, they have a network of vendors. Oh man, we haven't even touched on that yet.
Right.
Like reason number 7,000 to hire a property management company, you know everybody in this town and everybody in the Denver area who can help with different maintenance requests and different work orders. You have a fifth in line electrician that you can go to. Whereas the average property owner has to, I was going to say open a phone book. No one does that anymore. But they've got to Google and call and all of that. But you've got somebody's cell phone.
Yeah.
So I'm going off on a tangent. Labor efficiency, big deal for the PM company, big deal for the owner. A number of other factors. There's churn rate. So that matters a lot. Like great property management companies have a churn rate of less than 15%, which means that the average property owner stays with the property management company at least 6 to 7 years. Each unit stays there 6 to 7 years. Elite property management companies, that number is sometimes in the single digits. And that number, just to do some math for a minute, is the inverse, the percentage is the inverse of the length of time. So a 10% churn rate means average client lifetime of 10 years, right? So one of the ways that a property management company makes money in the long term is long-term relationships, client lifetime value. It's similar in a lot of different businesses. So that's another area where, you guys win together. Mm-hmm. The longer relationship you have as a property management company with a property owner is better for both of you. Like a 10-year average lifetime for a client is great because that client's been a happy customer for a decade. Nearly impossible in any other business, except maybe your CPA, because it's so hard to change CPAs. Yeah. And that's great for you because you're gonna get to know that person. You're gonna build trust with that person. You're gonna have over time, in those longer relationships, those owners are gonna trust you more, and as they trust you more, they're gonna push back less on your decision making because they're gonna say, "Oh, you have my best interests at heart. You know what I need." If I had to give some unsolicited advice to property owners, it would be, hey, once you've spent some time with your PM and your PM company and you know them well and you trust their judgment, you need to take your hands off of the operation as much as you can. So that means higher maintenance limits. That means more trust in allowing them to do the work that they do when a maintenance request comes in or when a turnover comes. Not saying you shouldn't hold them accountable. You should hold them accountable. But you should do so in a way that's very trust forward. I know that you have my best interest at heart. You're not just trying to spend my money, right? In fact, it's the opposite, right? You want to preserve their cash flow. You want them to have that NOI. If you don't, they're probably going to look elsewhere. But the longer that relationship lasts, the more trust it's built. So I could go on about a number of different factors, but I'll leave it at churn and labor efficiency for right now as two big things that drive great outcomes for both parties.
Yeah, and I really liked what you said. I mean, that's one of the things that we talk a lot about is that who we want to be is a company that's offering peace of mind to our clients. And it's taking off that mental load. Yeah. It's that you realize that if you're self-managing no matter what, you will be the one that gets the 2 a.m. phone call. It may or may not happen, but you need to be prepared for it. So you're always on call. Mm-hmm. And I think for some people that, hiring management does provide that peace of mind, kind of gives them that break. And then from that compliance perspective, like what you were talking about, is having systems, a well-organized company that has all the processes, SOPs in place to do the compliance part of the business well is really important, which is what we talk about when we're talking about vetting and the way that we're in relationship with tenants and the way that we're following landlord-tenant law. And then also maintenance. It's a huge piece of it. And I mean, I had an experience this weekend where hot water heater failed in the middle of a Sunday and the vendor was able to call someone on our team, have a conversation. That person got in touch with the landlord to say, if I don't hear back from you, I just want you to know we're going to do this in your best interest. Yeah. It's leaking. Yeah. We can't wait till tomorrow. Nope. And we knew that was the right decision to make, and so did that landlord. Right? So,
and in the absence of a PM company, that's you that has to go to Home Depot, get the water heater, or call a plumber on Sunday, emergency, double time, I was here yesterday. It was 84 and sunny. It was absolutely beautiful. The last thing you want to do
Right.
is replace a water heater on a
Yeah.
Sunday.
Yeah, so I just love that around the, kind of that mental load piece you were talking about.
Yeah.
So you've been talking about a lot of different things. One of the things that I have down here is just that cost of reactive management. So I don't know if you have anything to talk about, just around proactive maintenance and some of the things that we do as property management companies that help you plan.
Yeah.
So that if you get your furnace serviced in the fall, then maybe the furnace doesn't fail on Christmas Eve.
That's right.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, there's a lot to say about that. This kind of goes back to a point I just made, which is professional property management is not for everyone, but it is for most people. Maybe in the category of not for everyone is if you are a custom home builder and developer and you have every system in a house inside and out, maybe you could pull it off yourself. Because you probably have the knowledge to know, how do I make sure this heater's in good condition? How do I make sure all of my different systems, all of my different appliances throughout the house are in a good spot every year before each summer and before each winter. That's not most people, right? It really takes a property management expert to know those sort of things. HVAC is probably the best example here, because having a property management company partner who knows your HVAC system and who has a relationship with a professional HVAC company who's doing preventative maintenance, who's going and, getting the air conditioning system ready in the spring before it gets hot, getting the heating system. Now, I'm from North Carolina, so the big deal for us is always that AC
air
system.
Conditioning, yeah.
Oh man, you got to have that AC system ready by April, and if you got to pull the drain lines, you got to recharge everything. You got to make sure, because if you lose air conditioning in July when it's 98 and humid, you're gonna have a very, very unhappy tenant. And the HVAC companies are super busy that whole time. Here, I imagine the priority is a little bit more geared towards the heat.
Right.
But so you got to do that. And what's interesting is and there's plenty of data on this. If you spend the money proactively to do preventative maintenance on your HVAC system, as an example, in the spring and the fall, you will save money in the long run, because those emergency visits are really expensive, and the life of the appliance is substantially longer if you do that. So one of the really just good principles as a property owner is buy high quality equipment and get it serviced regularly. That if you're in this game, if you're in this to be a long-term holder of any stripe, 5, 10 plus years. And by the way, if you look at returns, the longer you hold, the better it's going to be for you. Like, buy and hold is a great strategy for tax purposes, for appreciation, for all of those things.
Yeah.
There's a world in which it makes sense to do a lot of flipping, but buy and hold is the cream of the crop in terms of actual ROI. So HVAC is one of those, and having a PM company who knows HVAC and who has great contractors lined up, that's going to be really good from an ROI standpoint. And then this is the part that I think people don't appreciate as much. Any maintenance request, or especially emergency maintenance request, that you can head off with preventative maintenance is a better experience for your tenant. And property owners, I think property owners and property management companies, by the way, have really had a big shift in the last 5 to 10 years, maybe COVID was part of it, have had a big shift in the way that we think about tenants, and our level of care and respect for tenants as an industry has gone up a lot. In fact, we've even renamed them to residents, which is great. Like, I know legally the word is tenant, but resident is I think a more positive word, and so we often use the word resident. And what I'm getting at is, people didn't realize just how much tenant satisfaction matters to NOI of the property and profitability of the property management company. What's better for all parties? And again, if you want to rein me in. But what's better for all parties? A property that turns over every single year, which gets a new tenant every year for one reason or another. The rent is too high, they got priced out, or there were too many maintenance requests, which is, by the way, the number one reason that tenants don't renew is the condition of the property.
Okay.
It's just not being kept up. I'm constantly asking for this and that. It's a slow response from the property management company. Like, what's better for everybody? That or a tenant who renews year after year at roughly the same rate? The latter by a landslide. There's a number of reasons. One, every time you have a turnover, you have vacancy loss. And vacancy loss can really eat at you. I mean, a month of vacancy loss is what, 8% of your revenue for the year? That can be the difference between positive cash flow and negative cash flow.
Right.
That's one. And then another one is turnover cost. Tenants who, someone who stays in a property for a year and then renews, yeah, if there was a turnover, there would be some turnover costs, right? You'd probably have to do some painting. You might have to replace some flooring over here. You might have to do this, have to do that. Average turnover $2,000 to $3,000. But people who renew after a year, they're not asking for new carpet. They're like, oh yeah, this is my house. I've lived in it. It looks a little lived in. That's great because it's my house. Let's roll. Let's re-up. Maybe if they stay in there for 5 years, they may say, hey, this year when we renew, can we do some carpet? Sure, we can do some carpet.
Yeah.
But in general, everybody wins. The management company wins because they don't have vacancy loss because, as you probably know, the management company makes most of its money from the monthly management fee, which is generally charged against rent.
That's right. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And so, and then the management company wins, and of course the owner wins, no turnover cost, no vacancy lost, and the resident wins. They get to stay in a place that they really like for a long time. But residents who suffer through bad management for a year and who suffer through sometimes bad self-management for a year, they're often looking for another place.
Yeah.
And home prices are still really tough. It's still really difficult to buy a house right now. So there's still a very strong renter pool. And so they're just going to go, if they had a bad experience with your management company, the first place they're going to go is a competitor management company to see what sort of listings they have available. And that's tough for all parties. So a lot of good reasons to be on top of preventative maintenance.
Yeah, and I think what we notice here is that, and our owners have been excellent in these conversations, is really talking about this value. And you're right, in the state of Colorado, in this particular year, the cost of transitions has increased because some of the new law and legislation is putting the onus on owners to do some of that transition maintenance that used to be put on tenants.
Yeah.
So what was naturally going to be an expense has increased.
Yeah.
So it's even more of a reason. And in a difficult market, what we've noticed is if the renewal is given to the tenant and they accept it, that's excellent because you're getting the same rent or maybe a little bit higher, 2%, 3% higher. But if that property comes back onto the market to be rented again, it's not necessarily renting at the rate it was renting. And so there's a risk there too. So not only could you lose money in the transition expense, but you could also, in a difficult market, which we find ourselves in Colorado, kind of started last year, that can impact it too. So yeah, I mean, it's important.
Yeah, just one thing to add on that. So at Profit Coach, we serve clients nationwide, and the difference between managing a property in Florida or Georgia and Colorado or California is very different. So this is an apolitical statement. Think what you will about the laws. It is more difficult to remain in compliance in a state like Colorado, similar to a state like California. And so actually, what's interesting is the value proposition for a property management company actually goes up because it's difficult for property owners to stay in compliance. I'm not just talking about trust accounting. I'm talking about fair housing law.
Right.
I'm talking about landlord-tenant law. I'm talking about, a big part of your job as an owner of this company is staying on top of legislation.
Right.
That's something that if you don't have a good property management company, that falls to you as the property owner to stay on top of legislation. So it's no longer just, am I doing the right things with people's money? It's also, am I staying in compliance? And am I unknowingly making myself a target for a lawsuit?
Or
And
just
this is a
even-
very litigious environment.
Or even timing. So what we find is that, there's a law, for example, if you're going to not renew, and it's a non-renewal, you need to give 91-day notice.
91.
And that 91-day notice, that timing is important. And if you're going to sell your property, you need to be thinking about when the lease is going to end. You got to make that decision 91 days in advance. Once you've given that notice, you now owe that tenant. You're obligated to then, when they move out, to try to sell the property for 90 days before it goes back on the rental market. So again,
Wow.
timing is really, really important. And thinking about that timing matters. And if you miss a date or you get behind, now all of a sudden, let's say your lease was going to end June 30th and you thought you could still get on the sales market. And let's say you missed the 91 days. Now your lease end might be July 31st.
Right.
And now you've missed the market. So now instead maybe you want to renew. So the timing's really important. And that's one of the things that has also something we are always paying attention to is timing of how we're communicating so that we are following those rules.
What if I can turn the mic on you? What sort of systems do you guys have in place to make sure you don't miss those deadlines?
So we have the technology that we work with, right? So we can run reports. We are planning way in advance. We're having conversations at 120 days out
with owners
and tenants around renewal. I mean, if we have a tenant at 90, let's say at 110 days, tell us, hey, we're not going to be renewing. We're moving to another state. We're so excited or whatever. Then we don't have to do a 91-day non-renewal now, and we can avoid that situation. If we have an agreement with tenants, often a lot of our landlords are getting renewals plus 90 days. And so that puts your mind at ease. It's like, okay, they've renewed again. We can have these conversations. So we try to be ahead of the schedule so that we have plenty of time. And then what also happens is we can get the property on the market 60 plus days in advance of it being vacant, if it's going to go vacant. But it's all systems inside of our property management software. So we're pulling reports and we have an accountability that the asset managers, property managers have to make sure that we're hitting those deadlines. But it's like you said, we wake up every day, it's what we do. And it's so different when we have all these tools to help us stay on track.
And I'm sure we'll talk about that more, but I mean, the system that you guys use is literally unavailable to property owners. They can't buy it.
That's true.
I mean, they can vibe code some things, they can buy some off the shelf things that are geared towards property owners, but it's not the same. It's not nearly as good, and it's just completely inaccessible to them. So yeah, there's a big advantage to staying on top of those things with the right tools.
Yeah. That's funny. Nice segue. Technology, systems, and efficiency. How has technology changed property management? I was actually telling Brad today, they asked me our origin story at Fox, and I was talking about how 24 years ago when I was managing my first property, I would meet someone at a coffee shop with a paper lease and we would sign it.
Absolutely.
And and if someone needed some maintenance, they'd make a phone call.
Still happens today at some companies.
Probably does. And so it's incredible how technology has advanced, and we're all seeing it, right? And now in our world, we're seeing even our software program, bringing in some AI efficiencies and that sort of thing. But technology and systems and efficiency is a huge backbone to what we do. And I honestly don't know how we'd manage 1,400 doors without that technology. I mean, it is the technology that people are using on the other side, right? Tenants are getting on syndicated, marketing. So when we list your property and we click a button, it goes out to 23 different sites. And then when we make a price change or we add an amenity, it updates everywhere. And so there's so many. I used to, for those of you guys who are local Daily Camera, understand Daily Camera and advertising, I used to put the ad in and I'd have to count each. I mean, I think I could have a certain amount of letters in the ad, right?
Right.
We would have to manually, and that's how people found properties, is in Daily Camera. That was the only way to do it. So anyways, enough said. I mean, that dates me greatly. It dates the many years that I've been in property management. I don't know if you want to riff a little on the technology systems efficiencies and kind of what you're seeing in that benefit to landlords if those things are in place.
I would love to, because it is a big deal and it is one of the biggest differentiators between a good professional property manager. Like I said, they're not all created equal, and self-management. So you probably could parse this out. In my mind, there's three categories. There's good professional PM. There's not so good, not so professional PM, but somebody who will manage your property for you. And then there's self-management. Obviously, I'm a strong advocate for good professional property management. It does deliver better returns for owners, just hands down. And technology and systems is part of it. So to trace the journey a little bit, from when you started to now, you've got really three big evolutions. You have the evolution from spreadsheets and paper leases and checklists and all of that to true PMS systems. Kind of started, I mean, there were other ones, but it kind of started with Propertyware. And then AppFolio really became the one that took off for the industry and that allowed us to do our work in just a much more organized fashion. So you got like the PMS revolution, that was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Then what you had about 5 or 6 years ago, bordering on 8 to 10, is what's called the process workflow evolution, which is these systems, sometimes built into PMSs and sometimes point solutions, that allow property management companies to do all of their workflows in one place, online, in a cloud-based system.
And collaboratively with each
And
other in different
collaboratively.
departments.
That is such a big deal.
Right.
That has made that was the efficiency revolution that allowed PM companies to actually do work efficiently, because now you can run portfolio, you can run departmental, you can run all these different labor models. I'll just highlight departmental for a moment. If you have a departmental model, everyone who does a different job has access to the same information in the same place. So, a work order comes through and they're able to see the same communications that the leasing team had and that the property manager had, and now the maintenance department has. Or if you're a portfolio manager, you have all of your data from this tenant and this owner in one place.
Right.
And you have these documented processes. We're going to talk about that in a moment. That like, I'm just actually going to go there right now, and then I'll jump back in. Fundamental to all of this technology, the most important part by a lot, is a well-documented, efficient process. That if throwing technology at a problem will not fix it. You have to have a process that technology builds on, and we'll talk about AI in a second, but never has that been more important with AI, right? If you put bad data or a bad process into AI, all it does is just speed up the chaos. It makes terrible results happen faster. So underneath all of this is the right structure, accountability amongst teams, and a well-documented process that everyone in the organization follows. But anyway, so you have the PMS revolution, you have the process workflow revolution. When a maintenance request comes in, we know exactly what to do. We know how to triage it. We know which vendor to call, because preferred vendors are listed right in there, or an owner who says, hey, I have a great relationship with an electrician who's one of your vendors. I want you to use that electrician. Fantastic. That's right there in the software. The maintenance request goes to that electrician. All the follow-up communication, the text, the emails, the phone calls, it's all documented there.
Right.
The touch points, they're proactive. The automations, hey, just letting you know, we're still working on this. Our ETA on this is in 2 days. That's when he's going to be there. He's going to fix it. And then closing it out, billing, all the information. That was the process workflow revolution. That was a big deal. Now, starting about a year ago, and we're just on the front side of this, is the AI revolution. So different PM companies are taking different approaches to this. I don't necessarily have an opinion on the best way right now. It really depends on your company. But using AI to A, complete tasks, but now B, to actually interface with tenants to some degree. You've got some AI receptionists out there that are pretty good. One of the things that AI is best at is triaging maintenance requests. So a maintenance request comes in, and a really good AI maintenance agent can actually head off a lot of maintenance requests with, did you try this? Is it leaking from here? Did you reset this breaker? A lot of these questions, and a good maintenance coordinator can do this as well.
Right.
But having that sort of proactive approach to triaging maintenance, and I keep talking about maintenance because
it's a huge part of what we do.
It's most of the game.
Right. It is.
Once you have a tenant in place, it's most of the game.
Yeah.
It's most of the expense. It's most of the margin for the property owner. It's the experience for the tenant. So anyways, now we have AI. My personal position on AI and what I think it's best for is to do as much of the manual, repetitive processing work for a property manager as possible, to free up that property manager to do the thing that humans do best, which is human-to-human connection, which is creating value through relationships. So whether that is a proactive phone call to a tenant, hey, I saw that last month, there were 3 work orders at your property. It looks like all of them got handled well. I just wanted to check in. How are you doing? How's the condition of the property now? Did we handle everything to your satisfaction? Like you said, hey, by the way, your renewal's coming up in 4 months. Like, what's on your mind? What are you thinking? Are you looking at renewing? What can we be doing better to serve you? Same with the owner. Hey, here's a quarterly report for you. Here's trends on your property. Here's some things that I'm seeing in the market. Let's have another conversation about your goals. Are you looking to buy more? Are you looking to hold? Do you have a clear understanding of your tax strategy for the year? I can refer you to a CPA. All of those sort of things are what AI can free us up to do better and provide an even better experience for owners and tenants. So I'm not really in the whole AI is going to replace property management camp.
Yeah.
I'm not even really in the AI is going to replace property managers camp, because I think AI is just going to make us be able to do much, much better for our customers and actually be able to be more profitable as companies and deliver better ROI for owners. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're already starting to see that, right?
Yeah.
Because we're starting, AppFolio is starting to use AI, and as we use our workflows and as we continue, I mean, there's so many opportunities as a company. We're in workshops all the time. We're going and listening to presentations. A couple of members of our team were at a panel last week about AI and sort of the ways that we can use it. And it is for efficiency. It's not to replace the human touch and the human connection, because I think that's always going to remain important. Yeah, that's going to always remain important. But if we're not stuck in the minutia of comparing notes or updating on something, and we can use qualified data, and it's really important right now that you're feeding AI correct information to then get a correct analysis. And so there's quite a bit of time in the background to make sure that the reports we're pulling are accurate, so that the analysis that we're giving you is accurate.
Yeah.
So it's still but it's a great new tool. And also we're noticing the tool being very helpful around email communication. As we know, as communication, whether it's text or email, it's like 5% of communication can go through that medium.
Yeah.
It's so different, right? And then if you get on the phone, so much better having conversation. Get on a Zoom call where you're making a connection with someone face to face, even better communication.
Right.
And so if we can have that back end be done for us more efficiently and giving us more time to have the face to face communication, the relationship's stronger. And what I always say is like, that's one of the most important things we can do as property managers, is have good relationships, because then we can work through everything. Our core values at Fox are be kind. So in the way that we're interacting with each other and others, find a way forward, which is like that sort of, how it's resilience and it's grit and it's intention solutions oriented to get to the end, and then own the outcome, which is accountability. And owning the outcome, which is that how do we help be a part of that solution? Own it so that it gets to the end and we meet that, and so I think with bringing in the tools that help us do those things, I think I feel like our entire company was built on relationships and who we were as human beings as we interacted in the world with tenants, vendors, and owners. And we don't ever plan on having that change.
Yeah.
So that is still the most important thing to us. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say just knowing the Fox origin story after some nice breakfast this morning, one of the things that impresses me the most about your company is how you built such a scale in property management, because you are on the larger side of property management companies, which, by the way, I think is a net positive and a good thing for owners and tenants. Just simply in the way that you affect markets, you affect rents by your sheer size. And so I used to run a company roughly the same size. And when someone is looking for a property, they don't just go to Zillow, they go to your website, because they know that there's a big selection there for them. So anyways, I think that's a good thing. But the way that you built your company on those relationships, and that you worked really, really hard for more than a decade, grinding it out, and then you kind of raise your head up, and you're like, wow, I have a lot of scale, and this scale is entirely built on relationships. How much better could we be if we also were at the forefront of the industry conversations? Part of what we're doing right now, right, is having one of those industry conversations, going to conferences, adopting the latest technology. Going to the AppFolio user conference is a great place to do that too, where you just get to learn more about all of these tools, and there are others as well. And yeah, just another really good advantage for property owners is you don't have to do that stuff, because your management company does all of that for you.
And then we're hoping also to be doing things like this where if people want to, they can jump on and listen to
Yeah.
what's going on behind the scenes. And I know that some of our owners really love that, and I'll get feedback like, oh, I listened to this, conversation you had. And so our hope is that we're transparent and we're sharing what, the information we think is valuable that people might find is interesting.
Yeah, bringing it out to everybody.
Yeah. So let's see. We're kind of coming to the end. You may have some things you want to make sure to say. What does great management look like? We've sort of talked about, right? Consistency, accountability, process, performance measures. Like, how do high performing management companies measure success?
Yeah, so first of all, this is a cheeky answer, but it's true. High performing companies actually measure success. they actually measure it.
Yeah.
The problem that we set out to solve in property management back in 2018 was that no one was measuring, and if you were measuring up against a standard that you set for yourself.
Right.
So in every industry, you have to have something to benchmark against. Benchmarking against yourself is not sufficient, because being better than before doesn't mean you're best in class, right? The analogy I usually use is this is like upgrading from a flip phone to a BlackBerry and thinking that you're leading the technology world. Not necessarily the case. You may have made a jump, but you're still way behind.
Right.
So the first thing that high-performing property management companies do is standardize the way that they measure. So you're a great example of this. You guys are on the NARPM accounting standards. You're on the NARPM financial standards. If you are looking for a property management company, that is actually one of the first things I would ask is, do you use a standardized system to understand how well you are performing as a property management company and how well you are performing for me?
Yeah.
So we wrote both the corporate accounting standards, which is how we measure financial performance, and we wrote the trust accounting standards, which is how we measure property performance, and we wrote the industry operational standards, which is how we measure operational performance. And the next thing that Profit Coach is doing actually is a full-scale benchmarking study on operational performance. So we've done finance, we've done property, and now we're doing operational. And I hope you guys will be a part of that. And the reason we do that is PM companies need to know where they stand.
Right.
You need to know, not just against yourself, but against the best in the industry, how is my revenue per unit performing? How efficient is my labor? What is my churn rate? What is my growth rate? What is my unit acquisition cost? How efficiently am I spending money through marketing and advertising and sales and website to attract new business? And then, what's my churn rate? Is it equivalent, less than, or greater than my growth rate? So how do I know if I'm winning or not? So we are the ones who provide the authority to measure those things and to give property management company owners like you confidence that you know where you stand and you know what you need to do to get from where you are to where you want to be as a company. So that's what our coaching program does. It really helps property management company owners do that. Know where you stand, know where you're going, and have a really clear roadmap and a path to getting from here to there. That's really the core of what Profit Coach does. And then, of course, the accounting services, the back end, what we provide for you, ensures that all of that data is clean and reliable. As a client, is the accounting we're doing is all in compliance to all of those standards.
Right.
So you're getting super clean data. You're getting your accounting done by the people who wrote the standards. And so when we give you any sort of financial reporting, it's highly accurate, and you can go look at the live financial benchmarks for the industry updated in 2026, so you know where you're at and you know what gaps you have as a business owner to close to make sure that you can call yourself the best of the best. Because that's what most business owners want to be.
Yeah.
We want to deliver amazing value and great careers for our people, and we want to build businesses that are great.
Yeah.
And greatness is intangible in the relationships, but it can be measured in the financial and operational results.
Right.
And that matters a lot to us and to our clients.
And I think I heard you say in one of our conversations is like, it may or may not be interesting to our owner around, how profitable Fox Property Management is,
Sure.
or how we run our business. Although it actually
It should be of
is
great interest.
incredibly, it's
Yeah.
correlated.
Yeah.
Like the success
100%.
of your property portfolio and the way that we manage it is directly correlated
Yeah.
with how well we manage our company.
Strongly.
Yeah.
I mean, this might be a little bit of a head twister, but it is 100% true, and I'll explain why. The high profit, and when I say high profit, I'm not talking exorbitant. I'm talking 20, 25, 30, 35% profitability. Those property management companies that are profitable are delivering the best results for their property owners and the best NOI for their properties because they are delivering the best experience for their tenants who renew, who provide 5-star reviews, who provide referrals. It's a virtuous cycle. It really is. And this is probably the thing that explains the counterintuitive nature of this. A profitable property management company has the resources to hire the best people, to train the best people with the best training materials, to send them to conferences, to buy the best technology, to pay, I'll be honest, to pay people like Profit Coach to do their accounting and to do some of their back end work so that they have industry experts supporting them and they're not alone on an island. They have money to invest in the company to make it great, to deliver an amazing result for property owners and for tenants. When you don't have that, when you're worried every month about making payroll, you don't have an abundance mindset. You have a scarcity mindset. This is
Right.
one thing we talked about this morning. When you have a scarcity mindset, it's, okay, how can I get every dollar from my owners so that I can make sure that I can make payroll? How can I pay my people as little as possible so that I can feed my family? When you're able to feed your family and your company is able to be profitable and you're able to share that income with your people through bonus programs, through profit sharing, through all of these different things, you are going to deliver better results for owners. It's interesting. One of the things you should ask when you are interviewing property management companies is, what's the state of your business? Is this a profitable business? Like, they don't have to produce financials.
Yeah.
But like,
Are you going to be around?
are you going to be
you
around?
running a
That's
good
the other
business?
thing. Are
Yeah.
you going to make it?
Right.
Are you going to make it during the
Yeah.
next downturn? Because look at the economic cycles in real estate. They go up and they go down. I can't exactly tell you where we are right now.
Yeah.
I think we're probably somewhere in the middle of a cycle. But yeah, are you going to be around? Can you make it if things go bad, or if we have, a COVID type event that doesn't act exactly like it happened in COVID, right? So yeah, I think that's a big deal. You want your PM company to have history, to have profitability, and to have excellent people who are well paid to manage your properties with excellence.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. I have some rapid fire questions for you.
Okay.
We'll see if you can answer.
I'll give you some rapid fire answers.
Yeah. Okay. So, what's the biggest mistake investors make?
Self-management.
Okay.
I won't explain further. Don't do it. There's no reason to make that a mistake. You don't have to try it. Just don't do it.
Okay. Good answer. One metric every owner should know.
I own a company called Profit Coach, and so the answer must be NOI.
Okay.
I mean, you just need to know if you're cash flow positive or negative. You need to know if you're making money or not.
Yeah.
There are all sorts of metrics to measure, but the bottom line has to be the bottom line.
Yeah.
You should know that.
Best investment an owner can make in their property.
Yeah, I talked about this earlier. I call it high durability, low maintenance upgrades. So the best thing you can do for your property, if you're an STR, it's a little bit different. If you're an
STR is short-term
rentals, you
Yeah.
need some amenities that pop.
Yeah.
You need a hot tub, or you need
Right.
some sort of backyard oasis, or some incredible bed system, or whatever to get people to rent your property every week. But if you're long term, you want high durability, low maintenance systems. The easy example that everyone would provide here is LVP. Just like,
hard surface flooring.
yeah, put in some hard surface flooring that doesn't need to be refinished every year. That's not carpet that needs to be replaced all the time.
Or cleaned. Because
Or
now
cleaned.
owners need to clean the carpet between transitions, and carpet cleaning is expensive.
Yeah. So LVP and like great mechanical systems.
Okay.
Don't go cheap. Don't go cheap on an HVAC system. You will save if you want to buy and hold, which again, from a returns perspective, you probably do.
Yeah.
Don't go cheap on that system.
Okay. All right, one thing owners should stop worrying about.
Yeah, this might be a little counterintuitive because I was talking earlier about paying attention to some of these things, or at least I was in my head. But don't micromanage the small everyday maintenance bills. You need to you need to stay on top of them. Your property manager needs to stay on top of them. You need to review your statements every month and make sure that they're not piling up. But if you're in the game, understand that the little things, they're going to happen and they're going to add up to some degree. Don't stress out over the $150 work order or the $200 work order. Save your stressing out for the big system replacements like I was just talking about. Do your due diligence, have your property manager get quotes, use trusted vendors, but stop worrying about all of the little things that happen. That's part of the game, and that's why you hired a property manager in the first place. Unless you don't have one, in which case it's going to ruin your life.
Yeah, and I think that for some people, they see those things add up, but oftentimes those are the small, kind of proactive things that we do, and they add up, but they hopefully save money over time.
They do.
And if you're doing those things over time, one of the things I can say is when we go to sell a property and property's being sold, look at that. When that's happening and someone's going to sell their property, we might have 10 years of history.
Yes.
And it is incredibly impressive to the buyer side
Yeah.
to see that the furnace was serviced 2 times a year
For 10 years.
for 10 years. And even though the furnace
That's
is
a good point.
12 years old, they're like, wow, this is great. And so having that history that we provide and with that reoccurring maintenance can really,
Yeah, and a $200 honestly, a $200 maintenance request or a $200 work order that is just that maybe could have gone either way, that you just take care of to keep your tenant happy, that can make you tens of thousands of dollars in the long run. A, for the system, and B, for the longevity of the tenant.
right, and their experience.
Because some of these tenants, when they get into a house they love, like we now live in a world that we didn't live in 20 years ago, where there is a large class of long-term renters. And they don't want to buy a house. Some of them can't. Some of them don't want to. They love renting. And if they get in the right house with the right owner and the right management company, they'll stay a decade.
Right.
And a little bit of like, hey, yep, saw that. Maybe we could have pushed that off, but like we took care of it, same day, it's
mattered
over.
to them.
They're like, they think about that at renewal, and
Yeah.
that will save you so much money.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Let's see. What's one thing owners should pay more attention to?
Yeah, actually, it was what I was just talking about: tenant
Okay.
retention and
Tenant
lease renewal rates.
Yeah, great.
Tenant retention, like pay attention to tenant retention, lease renewal rates. Talk to your property manager about what they are seeing in the market in terms of renewal rates, in terms of both the dollar amount for rent and like, hey, in your portfolio, what's the renewal rate right now?
Right.
Is it 50%, 60%, 70%? Like, what does retention look like, and what is this? Every property owner should ask this to their property manager mid-cycle, mid-lease. What is our strategy, assuming you have a good tenant? What is our strategy to retain this tenant? What are we going to do? When are we going to reach out to them? Are there any concessions that we're going to give them? Do you have a pulse on their willingness to renew? Like, the second you sign a tenant that you can tell is a good one, highly qualified, pays their rent on time, that's the moment that you should start thinking about
How do
renewal
we
and
keep
retention.
them? How do we keep them? Yeah. And make sure they're having an experience that we're not the reason they're leaving. A lot of
Yes.
people will not renew for no reason.
Totally.
You might have been the best landlord. You might have
Yes,
said yes to every
correct.
single request, and there is nothing wrong. They're exciting, new life, new job. Family size is increasing. There's all sorts of reasons, but what we don't want to be is the reason they're leaving.
Yeah.
That's the goal, right? Okay, here's the last one.
Okay.
What's one trend you're watching in property management over the next 5 years?
Yeah. Oh, this is a great question. There's a couple different ways. I'm not going to say AI because that's the obvious answer. And here's actually what I think is more important than AI. So for those of you who don't know, property management over the last 5 years have seen a flood of institutional capital, of money coming from the outside to buy up property management companies, roll them up into local, regional, or national conglomerates, and then try to sell them off for a much higher multiple than they bought them all for.
Right.
It's called a roll-up. It's usually backed by private equity or venture capital. I have not seen, and most people would agree, a big success story from that yet. Most companies, I'm not saying that they're not having current success. No one's had the big exit that they're
Right, it
looking
hasn't,
for.
because it's new.
Because it's new.
Right.
There have been some failures. There have been some people who have had to sell off the assets and disband. But nobody has had the big grand exit. And this is crucially important. And I'm not saying it's never going to happen. But no one has been able to take the local expertise and feel of a mom and pop shop under 2,000, under 3,000 units in a defined area and replicate that customer service level on a nationwide scale. So many people have tried. There are 5 or 6 big players doing that now. I know of a few who are about to enter. They have different investment theses. They have different operational theses of how they're going to do that. But right now, even those operators would admit that operators like you have the upper hand when it comes to customer service and when it comes to providing local market expertise. And I'm curious to see if anybody can pull it off. If anybody can really replicate what you do at a place like Fox Property Management from a customer experience side. And then I'm also curious to see if any, big institutional players or IPO sort of situations might occur for somebody who is actually able to do this really well. But it hasn't really happened, even though, if you go to a property management conference, you'll see these representatives everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You probably get phone calls every day from these people
That is correct.
who want to buy you.
Yes.
And I don't think they can't do what you do, at least not yet.
Yeah.
And so you have a big strategic advantage to me in your local market because you live here and you are on the ground. Your your brother, right?
Yeah.
He's kind of like, he kind of runs he seems to run the town to some degree. He knows everybody. He's been on the city council, all of that. But that doesn't happen at a roll-up company.
Yeah.
So
that's going to be interesting because we're already seeing that in Colorado. We're seeing some of
Yeah.
the bigger property management companies locally in Denver that have sold.
yes.
And they stay with the same name for a while and all that, but it's gonna be really interesting over time because it's about a 7-year period, right?
Yes.
Before equity needs that return and
Yeah.
there's big changes.
Sometimes 3. I mean,
Yeah.
3, 5, 7.
So it'll
yeah.
be interesting to see how that changes things.
Totally.
All right, well, we're at the end, which has been great. It's
That
been
was
so
fun.
awesome talking
Could've
with
gone
you.
for hours.
I know. There's so much to talk about. So we really appreciate you
Yeah.
coming in and sort of sharing it from a little different perspective. And I know that you're commonly speaking to property management companies, but inside transparency and partnership with our owners, having you kind of talk about what's behind what we do is
Yeah.
really helpful
Good.
for them to see. And then maybe it generates questions for you too. As you all know, I'm always available for phone calls, have a conversation, what's working, what's not working, what you're curious about. And hopefully this conversation has generated some questions and interest for you, or at least has given you sort of another kind of window into that who we are as a company is trying to always be better and better and better for you. That we're trying to run a really great operation here and that we're providing a service that's super valuable to you and that we're paying attention to what's going on in the industry, that we're looking at how can we improve, how can we be better at what we do, and also keeping the human side of what has differentiated us, I believe,
Yeah.
as a property management company, both from how we interact inside with our team and the culture here, but also in who we're going to be out in the world. And that everything we do behind the scenes just gives us a foundation to grow from, and that the stronger our foundation is, the better we are in our compliance, in our financial management, in our systems, in our processes, the more that we're going to be able to be better out in the world being a
Yeah.
property management company. Because as a company, we don't see, we're still growing and we want to keep growing because we actually want to be a property management company that everybody wants to use. We want someone in Colorado Springs to call and say, gosh, I wish you guys managed down here. We want to be that kind of company that's a people forward property management company that is setting a standard that people want to see in their management. And I feel like this foundational piece that is really just the nuts and bolts of the business is what's going to help us get there.
Yeah.
Because if those things
It's
are
a
in
direct
place, yeah,
relationship.
we can't provide the quality that our owners need us to provide.
That's right.
So I don't know if you have anything you want to finish with, anything you want to say at the
Yeah.
end?
I mean, I feel like I've given my piece pretty well. I think really highly of you guys. I think highly of your company. I've gotten to know y'all over the last, few to 6 months here, and I know that our team really enjoys working with your team. We're beginning to, and this is the relationship that we want with your company, with the companies that we've been working with for a long time. We start to get the comment, you feel like an extension of our team.
Mhm.
We feel like you're in our office. You're just down the hall a bit.
Yeah.
And I think we're starting to get to that point, which is really cool and really special. And yeah, I guess to you owners, I would just say, the accountability is with them, but it's also with us. Like, we're the ones who are doing a lot of the back end accounting work and making sure that the money is in the right place. So, yeah, we're happy to serve. Final advice for property owners, I think it's, like I said, it's a small subset of people who will enjoy self-management. A lot of people, they try it and it works for a little while, and then it's a 2 a.m. water heater busted phone call. The tenant is not going to call. They're not going to call a plumber. They're going to call you, and you're going to call a plumber, and you're going to get up and you're going to go over there because the house is flooded. You're going to have to find a place for those tenants to go until you remediate the damage and you check for mold and you get a new water heater in, all of those things. You can avoid all of that, and you will probably also have a greater return if you use a great property management company.
And
So
you hope you're not in France on vacation when it happens.
what are you going to do if you
I
are?
know,
You're
right.
going to call your mom and say, Mom, can you, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So there is just tremendous value in a property management company, and the price to value ratio is so reasonable to me.
Yeah.
So
Well,
Go.
thank you,
Yeah,
Brad. I so
absolutely.
appreciate you taking time to talk with
Yes.
us. I hope this has been helpful.
I hope so.
That you've learned something or it's brought up something that you're interested in exploring. So,
Mm-hmm.
we're always available. Reach out to us anytime, and hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much.